You are listening to the second part of the story. You can listen to the first part in the previous video or by following the link in the description under this video. Happy listening. His anger at seeing the two of them together was overwhelming, and the massage and spa did little to ease his feelings that day. When Lucas returned to his room, he and Sandy sat on the patio and just looked out at the lake. She pulled her chair over to Lucas and hugged him as he sat and cried about the end of his marriage and the loss of his wife. They started talking and he poured out everything he had to her, which eased his grief a little. She looked at him in shock, unable to believe what she heard. Sandy smiled tenderly at him and said, "That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Did your wife really think that you would let her become another man's wife for a weekend while you were at the same resort? This is just stupid. I feel sorry for you. What can I do to help? I don't know anything right now, but maybe you'd like to have dinner with me and keep me company. I hate eating alone." "Yes, sure. They brought us clothes for dinner. Yours is in the closet, and my dress is on the hanger. When are we going to dinner? I think they're going to keep us here until 6 p.m. Since we are locked here, we are at their mercy. After getting dressed, I tried to open the door again to see if it was locked. I felt my anger rise again, knowing that I was trapped in this nightmare. I heard Sandy's heels click on the marble floor as she walked into the hallway, and my jaw dropped when I saw the dress she was wearing. Her large breasts were visible, and her long legs looked stunning in the expensive high heels she wore. "Do you like it?" she asked with a sexy smile. "God, you are beautiful. This dress looks amazing on you, and you are so damn sexy." "Well, thanks for the compliment," she said, pointing to his pants. "Damn, if I weren't married, I would have attacked you." "That's why I'm here, honey. I'm all yours for the whole weekend." The door opened, and our companions led us to dinner on the terrace overlooking the lakey and garden. There were several people at the dinner that I didn't know, and it was obviously going to be a special occasion for the couple. Sandy and I sat at the end of a long table across from Vanessa and Jackson's seats. They were not there yet, and my companions gently invited us to sit down. A few minutes later, I saw several people turn towards the garden where Jackson and Vanessa were entering. When I turned around, I saw my beautiful wife in a stunning dress. Her hair looked bridal, and her face was aglow with dramatic makeup and a loving smile when the idiot grabbed her by the waist and led her to the table. She didn't look me in the eye. I hoped she would see my pain at her betrayal. Seeing her walking with him and acting like his wife was so painful that I wanted to cry. Sandy saw my pain, took my hand, and tried to calm me down. The asshole and my wife were now sitting facing each other, and the other 6 couples sat to the side of us, passing glasses of champagne around for an evening toast. When we all raised our glasses, asshole took the floor. A toast to my beautiful wife Vanessa and our guests who joined us on this wonderful evening. Everyone raised their glasses except me when I gave asshole the death look. Another toast from asshole to Lucas, our guest of honor, for his generosity and kindness. May this weekend bring you a new beginning and a happy life. Everyone turned to me and toasted me while my eyes turned red with rage. Then my eyes widened when I saw that my Vanessa, my suddenly deceased wife, was wearing what looked like a 2-carat engagement ring and a matching engagement ring. Now the rings I gave her are gone and have been replaced by her new husband. In my opinion, she took this opportunity to let everyone know that I had been replaced by a better man. When she noticed the expression on my face and saw what I was looking at, she quickly covered her face with her hand so that I could no longer look. Then I looked up, and she gave me a sympathetic look and a knowing smile. I allowed myself to sit back in my chair, amazed. The couple did live out fantasies of being husband and wife, and seemed to also be living out fantasies about their honeymoon. It was scary for me. I looked into the deepest depths of hell. I didn't know how to handle this sight and wanted to get up and leave, but Jay's big hand held me back while he spoke into my ear. "Lucas, please stay where you are and don't disrespect the owner. We don't want anything to happen to you, and the owner wants you to be present at this dinner." Sandy noticed my pain as tears welled up in my eyes from a mixture of humiliation, hurt, and anger. I did the only thing I could do to ease the pain. I started drinking. By the end of dinner, I was drunk and tried not to notice the loving attention of our hosts. I tried my best to ignore their kisses, hugs, and gentle touches as I sank further into oblivion. After what seemed like an eternity, 2 guards helped me to my room and then threw me onto the bed. Sandy took off my clothes and held me while I cried. It was the cruelest thing I've ever seen. I can't believe they made you watch their depravity. Just hold on one more day and you'll be out of here. I heard her words and felt my head pressed against her large, soft breasts, and then I fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up with a headache and a terrible taste in my mouth. I took a shower and took a pain pill. I cleaned myself up and then sat down on the balcony and looked at my watch. Just 10 more hours, and this nightmare will end. Then it will be time to begin my revenge. That first night in his arms was incredible. Years of flirting and being close to each other led to a long love session. We kissed for several hours. Then he took possession of me and made me his wife. The fantasy I had dreamed about for years was now coming true. I thanked him with a few more kisses. We didn't stop having sex that first night. The sensations awakened so many suppressed feelings. It was even better than in my fantasy. He hugged me tightly, and we kissed and made each other happy all night long. When I woke up in his arms the next morning, I realized what I had done, and I let it happen. I knew I didn't love Jackson, and it was just lust. Selfish lust that I wanted to get at any cost. I remember my husband's words on the phone and how hurt he was. I felt the pain that I might have caused him, and I just wanted to run up to him and ask him to forgive me for this stupid idea. Lucas was my one true love, and I wanted him to save me, come to me and take me back. Now I was horrified by what I had done. I felt used like a piece of meat and realized how stupid I had been. Yes, I enjoyed the first night, the dinner, the luxury resort, but it was all a sham. I wanted to run and hide when I saw the pain in Lucas's eyes when he saw Jackson's rings on my fingers. I can't imagine the pain he felt when he learned that Jackson was going to replace him as my husband. How stupid could I be? I need to make amends and ask him to forgive me. At 9 o'clock, it was time for late breakfast. Sandy and I were shown to an outdoor terrace where there was a huge selection of food and drinks. I drank a few cups of coffee before tackling the huge selection of dishes. Sandy and I sat quietly, not talking, just keeping each other company. That morning, I only saw one security guard accompanying us, as the area was quiet and nothing was expected. I went back to the buffet to grab my third plate when I saw Asshole walking across the patio towards the pool all alone. I looked around, but no one was watching me. And at that moment, all the anger and resentment that I had suppressed came out, and I began to act. I quietly set the plate down and tried to get out of sight, heading towards the pool to do something about this asshole for ruining my marriage and defiling my wife. I was already 9 meters from the buffet and was about to run away when I was attacked from behind. Apparently, Jay had been watching me from afar and recognized a potential threat. My adrenaline was high, and I managed to kick him in the face, causing him to cry out in pain. I was able to stand up and was about to head towards this asshole when Blake appeared out of nowhere and quickly put me down. I punched him hard in the face, bit Jay on the arm, and tried to run away, but I only managed to get a kick in the ass and throw him hard onto the sidewalk. I felt my nose break as I hit the ground at high speed and tasted blood in my mouth. The asshole didn't even notice the threat and calmly continued to swim calmly. Jay and Blake escorted Sandy and me back to my room without making a scene. Blake turned to Sandy and said grimly, "Get him in order. There is a first aid kit in the bathroom. Because of his stupid behavior, you will stay here until it is time to leave." As much as it hurt, I couldn't help but smile when I saw what I did to Blake's face. At least I got in a few hits before I was knocked down. My face was a mess, and every breath I took was accompanied by intense pain. Another dose of painkillers and a quick nap helped me get through the rest of the morning. They brought us a tray of food and told us to be ready to leave in 4 hours. Another 4 hours of hell, and I would have found freedom and escaped from this nightmare. Was Vanessa planning to go home with me? Apparently, she will stay with her new husband. It really sucks, and I can't imagine they thought I would go along with all of this. I took more painkillers and tried to cope with the pain. My face was getting worse, and ice packs weren't helping the swelling. I knew something was broken and needed medical attention when I got home. Apparently, no one noticed anything about my beating. But as I was being escorted to my waiting car, Vanessa looked out the window of the car where she was waiting and saw me limping and beaten. She ran out to meet me while my luggage was being packed. "Baby, what happened? Are you okay?" she asked, gently touching my face. I backed away, looked at her with one eye, and simply said, "Fuck you." She recoiled from my anger and my words. Vanessa has never seen me so angry. Everyone turned around and saw the pain I was in as I carefully sat down in the driver's seat. I probably had a broken rib in addition to the injuries to my face, but I wasn't going to say a word or complain about my condition. I was surprised that she wanted to come home with me. I actually expected to go alone, but she was there. My loving wife, talking to me and trying to nurture my feelings. It was so bad. The first hour of the trip passed in uncomfortable silence. During the ride, I groaned in pain at every little bump in the road. Between the pain of my injuries and my wife's adultery, I was in no mood to talk, but after the first hour, Vanessa could no longer stand the silence. "Honey, everything will be fine. You can tell me what happened if you want, but when we get back, I will take you to the doctor, and he will cure you. We'll be fine, honey, and we can put this weekend behind us and spend the rest of our lives together, just you and me." My wife has either gone crazy or her brain has been taken over by aliens. I didn't know what to do and couldn't think clearly because of my pain and anger at the woman sitting next to me. I didn't speak a single word the entire 4-hour drive, and Vanessa was clearly worried and shocked by my injuries and the fact that I hadn't spoken to her. It was so much fun, and I'm so glad we finally got to spend some time together. Being with him at this resort and expressing all the feelings we had suppressed all these years made me realize how lucky I was to have a man like Lucas give me this weekend. I can't wait to be with Lucas again and hold him in my arms. Jackson was a funny guy, but he wasn't my husband and I didn't love him. I think we both realized that it was just a one-time thing, and now we can both put it behind us forever. It's time to go, and I'll be back with my husband in a few minutes. Once I tell him how much I love him and give him a hug, I know everything will go back to normal. I'm waiting in the car when I see him, but why is he limping so much and, oh God, what happened to his face? I ran up to him and tried to hug him, but I saw how hurt he was and asked him what happened. I've never heard him talk to me like that before. When I heard him yelling at me, I knew he was angry. He looks terrible, and I need to know what happened and how my husband was hurt. Is he angry at me because he was hurt? Did I do something? I need to take him home, put him to bed, and show him how much I love and appreciate him. Damn, he won't talk to me. I do not know what to say. Thank God, we will be home soon. The pain is getting worse, and I don't know how much more I can take. I have to drag myself out of the car and drive myself to the clinic to get more pain meds. Before I even pulled into our street, I pressed the garage door opener, backed into the driveway, and opened the back door of the SUV. She had to pee and immediately ran into the house when I stopped the car. With difficulty, I got her luggage, closed the back door, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw her run to the end of the driveway as I pulled away. A few seconds later, I heard my cell phone ring, which was apparently hidden in the glove compartment. I didn't answer the call and just went to the emergency room at the hospital on the other side of town, because the pain was getting worse. I drove 50 kilometers to this hospital, which I hoped was far enough away that she wouldn't find me. I parked my car and somehow managed to hobble to the emergency room. When they saw me, they quickly carried me inside and placed me on one of the ambulance gurneys. First, they took my insurance information and then my vital signs, which were obviously elevated. I was lying there waiting for the doctor with only my cell phone next to me. I received 10 calls from Vanessa and a dozen text messages. I realized I needed to let the girls know I was okay and turned on FaceTime while I waited for treatment. My girls reacted excitedly and were happy to hear from their dad, but they screamed when they saw my face. I had to let them know I was okay and what was going on before they talked to their mom. "Dad, did you have an accident?" Are you okay? Listen, girls, I love you. Just listen. Today, I was beaten by your mother's boyfriend's bodyguards, and now I am in the hospital for treatment. I took your mom home and I'm not going back. I'll explain tomorrow, but don't tell your mom that we talked or that I'm in the hospital. She'll call you, and I didn't want you to worry. I'm not going to talk to her. You understand? Yes, Dad. Did you say Mom's boyfriend? I'm sorry to say this, but yes. It's been a terrible weekend for me, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I can't go home. I'll call you back. But I didn't want you to worry when your mom called. She'll be angry because I left her and she doesn't know where I am. I love you girls. The doctors are already here. I'll call you girls tomorrow. Please remember what I said. I love you girls. The girls looked at each other and were now crying because of their father, who was in pain. The shock of learning that their mother had a boyfriend made them angry because she had betrayed their father. Of course, a few minutes later, their mother called. Mom, what did you do with Dad? He looks terrible and he's in so much pain. He said your boyfriend's bodyguards beat him up. Are you cheating on Daddy? What's happening? Vanessa almost dropped the phone when she heard what the girls said, and now she felt angry after hearing that the bodyguards beat him. Why would they do this? Darlings, it's not like that at all. I love your daddy. Mom, Dad said you were with your boyfriend this weekend. Tell the truth, Mom. We believe Dad. Were you with another man this weekend? Yes, but I don't love him. It only happened once, and your father knew about it. Mom, do you think we are stupid? Dad would never let you be with another man. What did you do, Mom? Listen, girls, this only concerns your father and me. Tell me, where is he? I need to see him. No, Mom. He made us promise not to tell you, but we can tell you that he is very offended and angry. He said he wasn't going home, so we wouldn't wait for him. Vanessa cried and hung up on the video call. The girls knew there were big problems at home, but they had no choice but to wait for their father's call tomorrow. They slept very little because they were worried about their parents. After an X-ray and a CT scan, I was told that I had internal bleeding, 2 broken ribs, a broken nose, and an eye socket. I would be hospitalized and sedated, and the next morning the doctors would discuss treatment. While I was waiting, 2 police officers approached me and asked me what had happened. When I told the emergency room nurse that I had been assaulted, obviously protocol was to notify the police. I told them the whole story. They made notes and told me they would write a report. That was the last thing I remember when the medicine completely knocked me out. Vanessa called Jackson and yelled at him after hearing his bodyguards beat Lucas. Jackson promised her that Lucas would enjoy the weekend. He will understand that this is a one-time affair and he will not be in any danger. He told her he didn't know about the injuries, promised to look into it, and apologized. He then thanked her again for the weekend. She got angry, hung up, and threw her phone across the room. Finally, she realized that Jackson was not entirely honest and was using her. Her anger intensified as she screamed into the silent house. He didn't return home. He was injured and still in pain, and she couldn't do anything about it. She wanted him to come home and make love to her. She cried because now she was alone, without the love of her life. The next morning, the doctors came to see me. After sleeping through the night with painkillers, I felt a little better. The doctor said my nose would need surgery, my ribs would heal, and my broken eye socket would not need surgery but would take up to 6 months to heal. The nose job was scheduled and I was kept in the hospital for 4 days until they were satisfied with my body's overall healing process. I waited until late in the evening, when I knew the girls would be home, and started video chatting. Hey girls, I'll be fine. I'm having surgery on my nose tomorrow, and they said my broken ribs and eye socket will heal in the next 6 months. I have to leave here in a few days. Oh my God, broken ribs, nose, and eye? They certainly did a great job on you, Daddy. Yes, they did, but soon I will be fine and I will be as cheerful as before. Mom is really worried about you. Can we tell you where you are, Daddy? No, kids. I'm afraid that if she finds out, she will send her thugs to finish me off. The more I think about what she did and how they beat me, the more I realize that I will not return home. I don't think I can forgive her. I don't know where I'll go, but it won't be home. Do you really think she would do something like that to you, Dad? Girls, her thugs tried to remove me. I don't want to find out if she has something else planned for me. We're so sorry, Dad. When she called, we noticed that she was crying and she begged us to tell her where you were. Well, since you don't know where I am, you have nothing to hide. Just tell her that I am recovering from my injuries and will be unavailable for the next few days. I won't answer her calls or texts so she can stop trying. I love you girls and I will call you when I can, but right now I need some rest. If you need anything, just call me. I love you girls so much. The girls cried and hugged each other after the bell rang. Their father was hurt by their mother's boyfriend. Their world was crumbling under their feet, and they were powerless to help. Anger and fear filled them for the rest of the night, and they prayed that their father would be okay. I called my partner at work and told him this disgusting story, and that I would be out of work for the next week. After 10 years, the business was running on its own, and my absence would not have affected the situation in any way. I didn't tell him what hospital I was at so he wouldn't have to lie to Vanessa. He offered me his rented beach apartment, which was not in use at the time, so I could recuperate. It was a relief, and now I had a place to stay. He said he would meet me there when I was ready. The medicine did work, and the next evening, the girls called and convinced me to call their mother and reassure her because she kept calling them for updates. I argued, but I realized that they loved their mother, and I knew that at some point I would have to talk to her. So I decided to FaceTime her after dinner and let her see the results of her fantastic weekend. It was 8 p.m. when her iPhone gave her a FaceTime notification. She answered and screamed when she saw what I looked like. She could see that I was in the hospital and hurt more than she thought. She cried and apologized over and over again. I am so sorry. Where are you? Let me come to you, baby. Vanessa, I'm fine, but you're the last person I want to see. Your little prank ended our marriage and sent me to the hospital. The affection you showed for him in front of me and the beating your lover's thugs gave me showed me that you don't care about me. For the last 2 weeks, you made me believe that I was your only love, but you set up this weekend to destroy me. But Vanessa, all you've done is ruin our marriage and my love for you. I won't return home until I recover from my injuries. My broken eye socket will take longer to heal, and I don't want to lose my sight from the beating I took. I hope your fantastic weekend was everything you wanted it to be, and I hope you have a miserable life without me. She sobbed and said, No, it's not like that at all. He said you agreed to this and knew what we would do. He promised me that you would have a great weekend and that you would be happy for us and for the money he gave you. You're completely crazy. The money he gave me was in exchange for me letting him have sex with you. Money for sex. You're fucking stupid. Did you also agree to drug me with some illegal substances? I couldn't move or stop him. Was it your idea to lock me in that room? Whose idea was it to surround me with bodyguards around the clock? I was locked out, I had no phone, and I couldn't go anywhere without his thugs by my side. Did you tell them to beat me like that? I was his prisoner while you became his wife. You even exchanged wedding rings and made sure I noticed. What evil entity has possessed you, Vanessa? What happened to you, and where is my wife? Yes, I saw how quickly you took off the rings that you wore for 20 years to become his wife. The pain is too great for me to even consider taking you back after the humiliation and betrayal you caused me. I'm afraid it's over between us, Vanessa. You ruined our marriage. It will be difficult, but I will try to remember those first 20 wonderful years. I've already told the kids about your boyfriend, and they know I'll be okay. Don't worry about me. Just move on and please leave me alone. Please, baby, it wasn't supposed to be like this. You have to believe me. Please come home. I will do everything that you want. I'll quit my job. I don't need anyone but you, and never have. I love only you. Please don't leave me like this. This is a big misunderstanding. You should give me a chance to explain everything. I'm sorry, Vanessa. Seeing you two together is something I can't get out of my head. I'm not sure I'll ever do it. I can't even begin to explain how much pain you caused. The pain from your betrayal is 10 times stronger than from the beating you gave me. But it was just a game. We were just pretending. Just a fantastic weekend. No love, I swear. Really? No, Vanessa. It was much more than a game. It was about my heart and my love. You threw them both away. Crying. She kept repeating that she was sorry and asked me to forgive her. Vanessa, don't call me. I'm going to recover from the beating and heal my wounds for a few weeks. I'll call you when I feel better. Please don't try to reach me. The pain you caused me is too much for me to handle right now. I'm so sorry, baby, she said when I ended the call. Since I paid all the household bills and health insurance, all the bills were in my name. I closed the credit card and transferred all but $5,000 of the funds to my brokerage account, which only I had access to. This income would be enough to cover household bills until everything was settled. Money and finances were the least of my worries at the time. My business was held in trust and would not be considered in a divorce. A prenuptial agreement would be useless because the only proof of her adultery was my beaten body. At 39, I still had a few good years left and would have rebuilt my life. There was no doubt that I needed a little revenge, but I have time, and I am a patient person. After realizing that the medications were affecting my cognitive thinking, I stopped taking them and focused the pain on my plans for the future. Lucas finally started to feel like himself again. Living in a condo was a blessing. Morning walks on the beach lifted his spirits, and the ability to work remotely helped his recovery. When Vanessa heard that Jackson's men had beaten Lucas, she was so upset that she stopped going to work. Jackson was afraid that she would confess to his wife and decided to treat her as politely as possible until she came to her senses. He continued to pay her salary, sending her to the HR department on sick leave. She had been feeling unwell for the past 2 weeks and went to the doctor for evaluation. The shock of the diagnosis was too great, and when she was brought out of her faint, it was confirmed that she was indeed pregnant. 40 years old, and now pregnant and all alone. As if struck by lightning, she realized that the baby must be Jackson's, since Lucas had had a vasectomy 2 years ago. The tears did not stop, and now for the first time in her life she felt lost and alone. Because she was still covered by his insurance company, Lucas always received notifications and test results from the Cleveland Clinic MyChart, which he maintained for the family. When he saw that the test result was there, he opened the account and found out that his cheating wife was pregnant. Knowing that the child could not be his, he immediately contacted his lawyer and filed for divorce. Now the marriage agreement will come into force. This made him understand that there would be no reconciliation and there was no turning back. Now it's time for this asshole to pay for his sins. In the morning, he warned the girls that their mother would be served with divorce papers. He explained to them that he had learned something that he could not live with and that their mother would have to explain it to them. He told them again that he loved them and that he would continue to pay their expenses and school fees. An hour later, his wife received divorce papers. She collapsed on the couch and fainted again when she saw the attached pregnancy report. The reason for the divorce was adultery, and the proof was pregnancy. Jackson was called an adulterer and the father of the child. Jackson's wife, Mary, met me for lunch 2 days before Vanessa was notified. My face was still a mess, and I was still wearing my eye patch. I told her that her husband's goons did this to me, and that everything would become clear after. I told her the whole story. I then showed her the pregnancy report and a copy of the divorce papers. During the divorce, you called my husband father. It pains me to say this, but yes. He made me sign papers prohibiting me from telling you what happened between your faithful husband and my unfaithful wife. But now, when the trial takes place, I will tell you the whole story. After hearing this story, Mary began to cry and sat stunned, realizing how this selfish couple had caused me so much suffering. If you can prove that he is the father of this child, I will cut off his balls and throw him out on the street. Lucas, you have a good lawyer. I want the best possible outcome for my divorce. Yes, my lawyer is known for his violent retaliation, which I believe stems from his own divorce several years ago. I'll arrange a meeting together to discuss our options. Lucas, I told you these two can't be trusted. I'm going to kill this asshole, Mary said with more rage than I've ever seen before. Mary, I know how you feel. Somewhere inside of me, I still love Vanessa. We were happy for the last 20 years, and then it all ended after one weekend. My mind can't quite process it all yet, and I'm in absolute hell. I cannot for the life of me understand how the person you love can deliberately destroy you and expect you to accept his actions. I don't know what to do with Mary, but now that she's pregnant with her lover's child, I can't imagine ever being with her again. My love slowly turns to hate day by day. A blood test did indeed prove that Jackson was the father of the child. Now Jackson, at 50, and Vanessa at 40 will have to raise a child. Everyone will think they are grandparents. To hell with both of them. I would now be able to enforce a prenuptial agreement that would give me the house and all associated property, as well as control of all finances. As stated, Vanessa will receive what she entered into the marriage with, namely her car and $12,000. Now she would need a job to take care of her child and pay the bills. Vanessa will soon realize how good things were for her before her big mistake, and she will regret that she can't take it all back. Being a single mother, living in a rundown apartment building, paying for child care and having no free time at 40 was something she had certainly never thought about. Soon her life will revolve around diapers, breastfeeding, and raising her baby. After finding out what she did to her husband, her family and friends wanted nothing to do with her. It turned out that I wouldn't have to take revenge on Vanessa because she got burned. A fun weekend cost her a wonderful marriage, the love of her children, the hatred of her family and friends, and her beautiful home and lifestyle. And now, at 40 years old, she had to raise her lover's child alone. She wanted her life back, but she had to learn the hard way that choices have consequences. Since that weekend, Vanessa still hasn't had a face-to-face meeting with Lucas. She eventually agreed to sign divorce papers if he saw her one last time. They agreed to meet in a quiet cafe the following Friday. By this time, Vanessa had returned to work, but took Friday off to meet Lucas. She knew her marriage was over, but she needed to let Lucas know what had happened, and somehow let him know that she had always loved him and that he didn't deserve what happened. Seeing her carrying another man's child as she approached the table, all the hatred and anger he had managed to suppress for the past month flared up again. All this came flooding back with renewed vigor, and he realized that meeting Vanessa was a mistake. After 2 drinks, he was able to calm down and listen to Vanessa's explanation from his side and what Jackson had told her. She said she never did anything without his permission and was sorry things turned out this way. Apparently, she never knew how Jackson played with her before that meeting. Over the next 10 minutes, he told her everything. Lucas was stunned to see that she had no idea of the depth of his deception. He almost felt sorry for her, but that quickly passed when he remembered that weekend. "Vanessa, you need to know the whole story and what happened. Your boyfriend held me captive, said he was going to make you his wife. He then said that he was going to tell you that I don't mind your fantastic weekend, knowing that I couldn't move to stop him. I was a prisoner, and they told me I was going to get cuckolded, and I wouldn't be able to stop him. He told me to accept his money as payment for lending you to him. He treated you like a bargain. You really picked a great guy, Vanessa." She sat there in shock, not knowing that Jackson had lied to her and made her believe that her husband was okay with her cheating. For the first time since that weekend, she knew the truth, and it made her sit back in her chair. This was the first time Lucas saw his soon-to-be ex-wife lose control of herself. After hearing his full story about the weekend, she screamed and threw her glass on the floor, cursing Jackson and herself for being so stupid. Several people in the cafe turned to see if he had offended her, and soon realized that it was an upset woman throwing a tantrum. After a few minutes, she calmed down and just started sobbing. "Lucas, I can't believe I screwed up so bad. You're the only man I've ever loved, and this predator convinced me that you agreed to a one-time freebie. I allowed myself to believe it. There was no love between us. It was just sexual tension from 7 years of flirting. Damn, he was a terrible lover and he didn't care about me. He just wanted to please himself, and I acted like a stupid high school girl and let him take advantage of me. I'm so ashamed of myself, and now I'm carrying his child. This asshole doesn't even want to take responsibility and told me I'm on my own because he won't have any money after he pays for his own divorce. Lucas listened and felt sorry for the woman he had once loved and cared for. Unfortunately, her mistake was too great for him to correct and forgive. She made some bad decisions, and she will have to live with them for the rest of her life. Suddenly, he saw her expression harden. It was as if someone had flipped a switch and she became a different person. She looked at Lucas, touched his hand, and simply said, "I will always love you, Lucas. I regret my mistake, and I know that you can never forgive me." She stood up and left him sitting there, wondering if she was just having a nervous breakdown. It was 2 p.m. when she went to her house and opened Lucas's gun safe. She pulled out a small caliber pistol and put it in her purse, turned, and walked back to her car. The clock in her office lobby read 3 p.m. when she walked into Jackson's office and closed the door behind her. Jackson was shocked to see the anger in her eyes as she stood in front of his desk, looking down at him. "You lied to me and said that he agreed to cheat on me, and now I have lost my husband. My children hate me and I am carrying your child. All because you wanted to prove that you are the better man. You destroyed my marriage and now I'm going to destroy you." Jackson's face suddenly showed fear as Vanessa pulled out a revolver and fired twice. He collapsed on the table unconscious as he began to bleed. Staff heard the gunshots, called 911, and watched as Vanessa walked into the lobby and sat down in one of the chairs to wait for police to arrive. Jackson was airlifted to a level 1 trauma center while still alive and underwent immediate surgery. The collapsed lung was the easiest part of the operation, and the bullet was removed without incident. However, another bullet damaged his vertebra and severed several important nerves that they were unable to repair. A few days later, everyone learned that Jackson was now paralyzed and would spend the rest of his life rehabilitating and adjusting to being crippled. Vanessa was charged with assault with a deadly weapon and attempted murder. She was not released on bail and gave birth to her child in prison. Because of her situation, she was forced to give the child up for adoption and await trial. The judge could have sentenced her to 5 years in prison, but after reviewing the case and circumstances, she was sentenced to 5 years in a mental hospital, from which she can only be released after a medical examination and recommendations. While Vanessa was jailed and awaiting trial, I decided to visit Jackson at his new home, a rehab center on the other side of town. It was a sad sight, as so many people injured in tragic accidents were sent here to live and try to rehabilitate themselves as best they could. I was taken to his room, which was intended for paralyzed patients. Jackson sat in a chair with cushions holding him in place and a breathing tube connected to a machine to help him breathe. He looked terrible and was no longer the big, strong man he once was. Anyone but me would have felt a feeling of sadness and pity for this man, but when I saw him, I could not help but smile. As I sat opposite him, I saw that he was watching me with his eyes, and I felt his discomfort. I sat in silence for several minutes, looking into his sad eyes. After a few minutes, I decided to start a conversation. "It's really ironic, isn't it, Jackson?" I asked, waiting for an answer, and knowing that he would not be able to answer. "Oh, I guess you're not very talkative today." Anyway, the irony is that the last time we spoke, we were in exactly the opposite position. I was the only one who couldn't move, and I had to listen to your plans to take my wife and make her yours for the weekend. You should see the irony, Jackson. You sit here, paralyzed by the woman you stole, face to face with the man you cuckolded. For the rest of your life, you will never touch, steal, or have sex with another man's wife. How does it feel to not be able to move or speak, Jackson? Sorry, I keep forgetting that you can't answer me. I will be the best person here, Jackson, and will visit you often to remind you of your mistakes. You reap what you sow, and I can't tell you how good it makes me feel. I had some delicious revenge planned for you that weekend, but I couldn't have planned it better. My unfaithful wife, the woman you took from me, will end up putting you in a wheelchair for the rest of your miserable life. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. Come on, Jackson. You have to see how wonderful it all is. Didn't even smile or nod. How boring you have become. Well, I'm going to stop by and bring you more great news from the outside world. You want to see me again, don't you, Jackson? If you don't want me to come again, just shake your head. Nothing? I guess this means you look forward to my visits. See you soon, buddy. Do not go anywhere. See, I was joking again. I'm really going to enjoy our visits. Take care. See you soon. 2 weeks later, I went to see Jackson again, but this time with Mary, his soon-to-be ex-wife, after convincing her to accompany me on one of my visits. I told her we could cheer him up a little. I loved the shock in his eyes when he saw me walk in, holding Mary's hand. We sat down, and Mary told him all the family news, trying to be as positive as possible under the circumstances. We spent about 20 minutes with him, and as we were leaving, I leaned over and whispered in Jackson's ear for a taste of his own medicine. Jackson, I know you can't answer, but I want you to know that I care about Mary for you and make her my wife, just like you did with Vanessa. I'm taking her on vacation with me, so we won't be back for a while. Imagine us together. I really like this irony. As I stood up to leave, I saw a tear roll down his face, and I simply winked at him as I walked out with Mary on my arm. By the way, Mary and I never had sex, but I had to put that thought into Jackson's head while he sat there helplessly, just like he did to me. Yes, revenge was sweet, but it was karma, and it was justified. With a renewed sense of satisfaction, I dropped Mary off at her house, and then drove an hour to meet Sandy. Yes, Sandy, the girl who spent the weekend with me at the resort. We kept in contact with each other during the trial and became close friends. Now that I was single and planning to divorce Vanessa at some point in the future, I enjoyed spending time with Sandy. Since she didn't live nearby, it was easy to hide our relationship from my girls or our friends. My sex life was my own business, and spending time with Sandy helped me regain my confidence. I was myself again, and had the best sex of my life. We dated like this, off and on, for the next 3 years, and we both knew we would never have a long-term commitment. She eventually left, and we remained friends. Life in a mental institution was light years better than life in prison, but the hardest thing she had to deal with were the other violent criminals in the institution. They scared her so much that she didn't want to leave her room. Through daily counseling, she found a way to cope and rebuild her life. During the first month, she was attacked and spent 2 weeks in the infirmary. After this, she learned to become invisible and avoid contact with other patients. She spent 20 hours a day in her small room, trying to adjust to her new life. Her world has changed from a world of happiness and luxury to a world of complete despair, all because of her selfish and stupid behavior. How had she ever convinced herself that her husband would ever agree to Jackson's plan? Visits from her daughters and family members, with the exception of Lucas, were a great help, and after the first year, everyone saw that she was recovering from her nervous breakdown. It took 3 years to conclude she was healthy enough to return to society. Her lawyer asked to see the judge, and her entire family, including Lucas, was present as the judge read reports and spoke with Vanessa and her lawyer. It was a cool autumn day when we met at the courthouse. We were escorted to the judge's office to hear Vanessa's request for release. This was the first time I saw Vanessa since the trial, and the intervening years had not been kind to her. She lost weight and looked 10 years older. I could tell she was shocked to see me, and I noticed she was having a hard time maintaining eye contact. I'm sure I brought back many memories in her that she would like to forget. After the formalities, the judge began the hearing. From the doctor's report, it follows that Miss Jones has resolved her problems and can safely return to society, and also applies for release. However, I find it hard to believe that she has fully recovered. I have the option of sending her back to a correctional facility or prison for the remainder of her sentence. If I freed her, where would she live? All of this was to be expected, and we discussed it with her lawyer prior to this meeting. Her lawyer stood up and said that her family was ready to take her back and support her until she completely put her life back together. Your Honor, Miss Jones, would like to return to Mr. Jones and her 2 daughters. They would support her and make sure she was able to comply with the court's demands. Vanessa had no idea that Lucas would take her back, and she felt tears welling up in her eyes. The judge looked at Vanessa sympathetically and said, "Miss Jones, have you truly recovered, and do you regret your actions?" Sobbing, she replied, "Your Honor, not a day goes by that I don't beg for the forgiveness of all the people I've hurt and whose lives I've harmed. My feelings of regret are too strong to express in words. I apologize for my actions and will accept whatever punishment you deem warranted." The judge was touched by her story and asked Lucas several questions. "Mr. Jones, are you willing to allow this woman back into your life and into your home after what happened?" "Yes, Your Honor. In her own words, she had an affair with another man and carried his child. She was involved in your injuries and did things that I will not mention at this meeting. Why would you take her back?" "Your Honor, we believe that she has atoned for her actions and that she is truly sorry for causing so much pain. She is the mother of our 2 daughters, and we want to help her recover and give her the love a mother deserves." The judge turned to Jackson's wife and asked, "Mary Grant, your husband is paying a heavy price for his lies and actions. What would it mean to you if you were to place Miss Jones in the care of Mr. Jones?" Mary stood up and said, "Your Honor, my ex-husband caused this whole fiasco. He destroyed 2 marriages, lost his beloved child, and ultimately Miss Jones committed a crime based on an emotional breakdown. I believe Miss Jones should be released, and I know Mr. Jones and his family will help her become a productive part of society again." Vanessa cried when she heard all the goodwill and love that was offered to her. Forgiveness and help were the last thing she expected from anyone. Raising her eyes to the sky, she said a prayer of thanks and waited for the judge to decide her fate. She was released the next day with 2 years probation to serve her 5-year sentence. She moved into the guest room in her old house. The girls hugged their mother and showered her with the love she so desperately needed. Lucas was sure that all the tears of the 3 women were about to flow throughout the house as he watched and enjoyed this scene. Lucas never filed for divorce after Vanessa's rampage. He knew she was in bad shape at the time, and he didn't have the strength to end her life while she was in prison, and he knew there would be plenty of time for that later. For some reason, the world felt right, as if the scales had balanced again for the first time since the weekend at the resort and Vanessa's mistake. Having her home and seeing their daughter so happy brought a smile to his face. They would have to see how things went from there. After 2 years of probation, Vanessa finally became a free woman and remained my wife. After a long year spent in the guest room, she returned to the master bedroom and continued her repentance. The first night I brought her back to our bed, I told her I loved her, but I would never forgive her pain and humiliation. I made it very clear to her that if she relapsed or showed any hint of disloyalty, I would kick her out and divorce would be the least of her problems. It was awkward at first, but by the 3rd time that night, our lovemaking became hot and satisfying. We were together again for the first time since her mistake. Somehow we found our way back, and I felt whole again. I never stopped loving this woman and probably never will. Vanessa never allowed herself to be attracted to another man again. In fact, she did not allow herself to be alone with men and tried to have me with her as often as possible. The actions she took, prison, years in a correctional facility, and the loss of her family led to profound changes in her thinking and personality. Vanessa was now a devoted wife and made sure I knew that every second of every day. To be free again and still married was a blessing she would never betray again. After years of struggle, Vanessa became a new woman, more beautiful than ever, full of love and energy. She never gave me any reason to doubt her love or loyalty. I still make a pilgrimage to see Asshole every month, but now I take Vanessa with me when I visit him to remind him why he lives in the hell he created. Mary remarried and never visited Jackson again. He died a few years later from organ failure and the usual problems that occur in paraplegics. No one attended his funeral, and he was buried at Potter's Field. Revenge was sweet, and the scales were balanced. We weathered the storm and came out better on the other side. Never waste today's happiness by thinking about yesterday's pain. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.